It's like I see Bernie Sanders launching his campaign and by August realizing he won't be in the top 5 in Iowa and dropping out.
So another MSNBC pundit was wrong about Bernie Sanders and pretends that he wasn't. So I'm talking about Jason Johnson of The Root. Now, The Root is a website that I've actually enjoyed. There's great articles on there. One article from Michael Harriot. He had a great piece on Pete Buttigieg being a total liar. Oftentimes, it can be a great website. At the same time, though, Jason Johnson is also a professor of political science and communications, which has me a little worried because of what he said here, as you're going to see, but also what he pretends, his position has always been on Bernie Sanders. When, as I'm going to show you, it hasn't always been the same thing. So first, let's start with this clip. This was today, January 1st. This is Jason Johnson and his analysis of Bernie Sanders after seeing the amazing money that Bernie Sanders is bringing in.
The idea there was going to be a progressive battle between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, it was never something that had much resonance with me, because that presumes that Bernie Sanders supporters are supporting him primarily for policy purposes, and that's not really what's going on. A lot of his core base support like him because they see him as sort of a political and democratic savior type character. So he was always going to end up winning out any sort of policy argument, because in the end of the day, people they like Bernie, and they're Bernie or bust kind of people. But I do think it's critical to remember this. We really are down to 4 people who have any chance. You've got Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Mayor Pete, and Elizabeth Warren.
All right. So before I go back in time to a year ago and show you what Jason Johnson said, let's just go over some of these points here. So he claims Bernie supporters don't support him because of policy. Really? Look, some of these people on television they're just really dumb. They're in a bubble. They don't actually talk to Bernie supporters. They don't actually know why people support him. But they're in a bubble, and the bubble tells them, oh, people support him because they really like Bernie's personality or whatever the hell it is. It's because of his record, his track record, and his 40-year fight for the same things. It's because of policy. That's the policy. So the idea that they don't support him because of policy is absurd. And on top of that, calling him his supporters view him as a savior. Even if you want to believe that, the Bernie Sanders campaign is about a movement. It's about a movement of people. His slogan is not me, us. Unlike the Hillary Clinton campaign back in 2016, where it was I'm with her, the Bernie Sanders campaign is not me, us. It's about the movement. He says himself, Bernie says himself, he doesn't pretend it's, oh, if you elect me, I'm going to get everything done. No, he says, you elect me, we win this presidency, and then I will need you. I will need these supporters. I will need the people, the American people, to help push this agenda that is for the American people. He says it straight up that even if he wins, he will not be able to get any of this done unless the mass movement of people continue to be behind him and this push to have a new vision for America. So, everything about this analysis is just completely absurd. But then, also, I just want to say, it's funny that he says here that Bernie supporters, they don't care about policy. Do Buttigieg supporters care about policy? Do Joe Biden supporters care about policy? It's funny how that criticism isn't levied at the candidates that their supporters actually don't care about policy. That these candidates, Buttigieg, Biden, it's actually just about their personality or who they are or their name recognition. Joe Biden has support because he's attached to Barack Obama. That's it. Name recognition. If you look at Biden's actual track record, it's horrible. He doesn't fight for people. He fights for Wall Street. He fights for massive corporations. Buttigieg, same thing. I mean, who believes Buttigieg on anything? This man has lied over and over again about what he supports. His healthcare plan is so backwards that he calls it Medicare for all who want it, when it's not Medicare for all at all. It is a public option, but he has to relabel it because he knows Medicare for all is so popular. So he pretends, oh, I support Medicare for all, but for those who want it, I'm not going to push my healthcare plan on you. when that's not how Medicare for All works. Medicare for All is a single payer system. The reason why Medicare for All would be so successful is because everybody's paying into the same system, meaning you have complete freedom of choice when it comes to doctors, providers, complete freedom. No co-pays, no deductibles, nothing out of pocket, no out of pocket expenses at all. I, as a Canadian, understand this because I live under a single payer system. So I can see right through Pete Buttigieg and his healthcare lies. But they're not judged about policy, or their supporters aren't questioned about why they support whatever candidate. But Bernie Sanders, not about policy. It's because they see him as a savior. Just complete BS. But let's now compare what Johnson said in this clip, him claiming, I never thought, this whole time I knew Bernie Sanders, he was always going to win this fight with Elizabeth Warren. I knew from the beginning. Let me show you what Jason Johnson said a year ago. So first, I'm going to play a piece of the clip that I just showed you, and then I'm going to show you what he said a year ago on January 10th, 2019. So first up, you'll hear this clip I just played.
The idea there was going to be a progressive battle between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, it was never something that had much resonance with me because that presumes that Bernie Sanders supporters are supporting him primarily for policy purposes, and that's not really what's going on. A lot of his core base support like him because they see him as sort of a political and democratic savior type character. So he was always going to end up winning out any sort of policy argument because in the end of the day, people they like Bernie, and they're Bernie or bust kind of people.
All right. That was this year. 2020. Now let's play 2019, what the same man was saying a year ago.
Bernie Sanders. This seems to, if you were to create the worst possible 3-week period for his presidential campaign, it would be the launch of the person you share the most ideological space with, Elizabeth Warren, and the fact you've had to defend yourself against the perception that your supporters are very anti-woman.
He's done. And I was
really.
Yeah,
you think he's done?
I think
wow.
He's done. I was literally having this discussion with a good contact of mine who's on the campaign. I was like, I see Bernie Sanders launching his campaign, and by August realizing he won't be in the top 5 in Iowa and dropping out. I don't think he'll get that far.
All right. Did you catch that? Here's what he said at the beginning. Here's what he said this year, 2020.
The idea there was going to be a progressive battle between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, it was never something that had much resonance with me.
Never something that had much resonance with me. The idea that there was going to be a battle between Bernie and Warren, are you kidding me? It was obviously obvious Bernie Sanders was always going to win that battle. Between Bernie and Warren, I always knew, me as the smart guy on MSNBC, I always knew that Bernie Sanders would beat out Elizabeth Warren. And then, what's that?
He's done. And I was
really.
Yeah,
you think he's done?
I think
wow.
He's done. I was literally having this discussion with a good contact of mine who's on the campaign. I was like, I see Bernie Sanders launching his campaign, and by August realizing he won't be in the top 5 in Iowa and dropping out.
These people, man. The dishonesty is just incredible. Look, I was wrong about Joe Biden. I thought Joe Biden wouldn't be first in this race still. In January of 2020, I did not think Joe Biden would still be at the top of national polling in this race. I was wrong. I've talked about this multiple times. I talk about this all the time, how I'm shocked that Joe Biden's still at the top. Because I'm an honest person. I'm going to tell you when I'm wrong. People on television, no. A year ago, Bernie Sanders, he has zero chance out by August. Bernie Sanders is going to be out by August. A year later, I always knew, some people didn't think so, but I always knew, I'm the smart guy, I always knew Bernie Sanders would be in this race for a long time. They're incredible. It's important as well to bring these clips up because if Bernie Sanders wins, these people are going to be out there saying, well, obviously, he had a big movement. He had the most volunteers. He had the most donations, the most donors, the most grassroots support. It was obvious to me the whole time that Bernie was going to win. When the whole time they've been trying to push a narrative that he can't win, that he won't win, that he'll be out by August. And they do this to manufacture consent. They do this to create this narrative to influence people, unsuspecting people, largely, people over 45 that watch cable news mostly. Again, I know a lot of my audience and a lot of Bernie supporters do support Bernie Sanders that are over 40, if you're over 45. But the cable news audience in general is over 45, watches cable news, watches MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, and are misinformed by this crap. And they take on this worldview. I mean, you saw it when I covered, actually, I'm not sure I showed this, but there was a recent focus group of the recent debate in December, the Democratic debate. And a couple people there, they thought Bernie Sanders won the debate. They didn't come in as Bernie supporters, but they thought Bernie Sanders won the debate. But they said, oh, but Bernie can't win. I mean, it has to be Joe Biden because only Joe Biden can defeat Donald Trump. Why would they think that after seeing Hillary Clinton lose in 2016 using the exact same strategy of reaching out to conservative voters? That's the Joe Biden strategy right now. He's trying to reach out to conservative voters. Joe Biden just said he would he'd be open to choosing a Republican vice president. That's the Hillary Clinton strategy of reaching out to conservatives. Why would these voters think that Joe Biden is the most electable against Donald Trump when every piece of evidence shows otherwise? Because cable news tells them that. Because they see on television that Bernie can't win. Even though it's the complete opposite situation. I mean, Bernie's support is independents, is non-voters, is young people. These are the people that did not come out for Hillary Clinton in 2016. This is why she lost the election. Hillary Clinton did not lose in 2016 because she didn't appeal enough to conservatives. No, it's because she suppressed the vote. She suppressed the Democratic base. Young people, typical non-voters, independents did not come out to vote for Hillary Clinton. In 2020, Democratic voters in general will come out for the same voters that came out in 2016 to vote against Trump and vote for Hillary in 2016 are still going to come out for Bernie Sanders in 2020. They're not going to stay home because these are diehard Democratic voters. They're going to come out and vote Democrat regardless. So the people you need to get are the people that didn't come out in 2016. Young people, independents, typical non-voters. That's Bernie Sanders. That's his base. So, but this point is not made on cable news because you have dipshits like this misinforming people and acting like they know best. I mean, again, this guy, he is a professor of political science and communications. He is shaping young minds with this bullshit. And they claim, oh, why are you being so mean to me? I mean, so I had a couple interactions with this guy on Twitter. It started off kind because I was, honestly, when I first shared this clip on Twitter, I thought he was just misinformed. I didn't think he was a dishonest actor. I thought, hey, I mean, maybe he just thinks that Bernie supporters don't care about policy, but some people, they're in their bubble, they don't know better. So let me just try and discuss why I know Bernie has so much support. But then I saw some tweets from him calling people Bernie bros, and it became pretty clear about what this guy's about. And you see old clips like this one saying that Bernie's out by August based on no information, just his own personal feelings. Like, when I give you predictions, when I say things, I base it in some sort of information. The reason I thought Joe Biden wouldn't be in first by this time is because I thought it would be obvious from the debates that he didn't know what he was talking about. I miscalculated how important the debates would be. People, apparently, many don't watch the debates, so it didn't have that much of an impact that Joe Biden wasn't able to form sentences. But this guy, he'll pretend that he was always, he always saw it coming. Yeah, Bernie Sanders, I knew. I mean, some people didn't know, but I knew. Just so freaking dishonest. All right. That's enough of that. I could go off on cable news all day. There's going to be a time, though, at some point in the future, I don't know if it's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, they're going to lose their power. MSNBC and CNN are not going to have as much power as people on YouTube do. So at some point, that's going to happen. I mean, you're seeing it now with young people. Young people overwhelmingly support Bernie Sanders because they actually get their information from legitimate sources. They can go back in time. They can see clips from the 80s, from the 90s, and see Bernie fighting for the same thing. They know this is a man that has always fought for people, even when no one was paying attention. I mean, that's how you know somebody is genuine. When they're fighting for you, when no one's even paying attention to them. Back in the 80s, 90s, nobody was listening to Bernie Sanders. No one knew who he was unless you lived in Vermont. And he was fighting for people. He was fighting for these same issues back then. And he's still doing that today. And finally, he's being recognized for it. I mean, think about, like, the amount of work the amount of work that Bernie Sanders has put in, over the course of his career, and just now, 40 years later, it's paying off in the sense that people are actually recognizing and waking up to how rigged this political system is. Like, Bernie Sanders deserves your vote because he's fought for you the entire time. Now it's time for you to fight for him.